Hi everyone, it is Elise Cabre here from Dawter, here to help you write and record the songs of tomorrow. You might have noticed that my hair is pink. If you like it, let me know. I'm digging it. I think it's gonna stay. Alright, so for today's video, I thought I would do a quick tutorial on how to create realistic sounding strings in Ableton. Now, FYI, everything that's in this tutorial is gonna be transferable to all the other DAWs. So if you use Logic Pro or FL Studio or any of those, you can still watch this video and get a lot of value. Now, the reason I thought this would be a good tutorial to make is I know that a lot of us singer-songwriters out there, we start writing our songs on acoustic guitar or piano, and often the first thing we want to do when we start getting into recording our music is adding some string sections, because strings and guitar or strings and piano sound beautiful. Well, they can sound beautiful. They can also sound really, really cheesy if you don't know what you're doing. And I know that's something that I've personally been really paranoid about. Before I had my confidence with producing music, I was really worried about my strings sounding kind of cheesy. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what I do to create string sections for my songs. I'm going to open up one of my own Ableton session files, so you'll be able to see exactly what I do. And see that it's actually not that complicated and you can absolutely do it as well. Oh, hey everyone. So here we are inside my Ableton session file. This is for my original song, Ticket to the Moon. This song is currently unreleased. But I do plan on releasing it this year. So once I do, I'll put a link in the description for that track if you'd like to download it. All right, so you can see in the session file, there is a bunch of different instruments going on the right-hand side here. If you're not familiar with Ableton, this is just like all the different instruments. So we've got vocals, guitar, samples, strings. So our string section is right here, the blue one. Right, so I will talk about the instrumentation and the arrangement first. So inside our we've got a group of strings right here, so we can expand that, and that opens up. You can see all the different instruments inside that group. So bam, bam. And the good thing about grouping your instruments in your DAW is it means you can load all your effects onto that group, and it will apply that same effect to all of the instruments. So you don't have to I've got a compressor and reverb on this whole group. So that's been applied to all the instruments inside that group. So I don't have to apply it to each of them individually, if that makes sense. Right, so inside the group, the instrumentation we've got here is double bass, a cello section, and a bunch of violin sections. So 4 violin sections. So that's what I've used to build my string section. And I recommend that because it means you're covering your low to high ranges. So you got your bass instruments, cello for mids, and violins for the high parts. Right, so arrangement wise, you can see my song arrangement up the top here. So we've got intro, verse, chorus, break, verse 2, chorus, outro. Nice and simple. And in that arrangement, you will see that we have no strings from the intro, the verse, or the first chorus, and our first string section appears in the instrumental break after the first chorus. And that's a really good place to start bringing in your strings. Usually the break after the chorus is somewhere we want to add a new element as a way to keep our listeners' attention. So strings work really well. All right, so I'm just going to play you the first chorus here leading into when we first hear the strings. One day I'll buy a ticket to the moon. So you can hear that this is just vocals, acoustic guitar, and a couple of little samples as well. One day I'll build a rocket ship and blast away. It's nice and sparse, plenty of space. And the song right here for our first chorus. We're coming into our instrumental break right now.
3, 2, 1, 0, 0. Liftoff. Americans return to space as Discovery clears the tower.
Right, so you just heard the double bass and the cello sections come in at that first instrumental break there. So I'll just solo that. So that's just really adding a bunch of bottom end and warmth to this track because I don't have a bass guitar in this. So the double bass and the cello are really adding that bottom end frequency in there. Right, and then after that, so the second verse, the strings disappear. We just go back to my vocal and the acoustic guitar, which I may as well play. So verse 2. So you can just hear me singing with my acoustic guitar. Some little space effects because it's a space song. You've got words that scream out. And listen to the strings are about to come in. Up here I won't hear a thing fall apart. One day I'll buy a ticket to the moon. Right, so we've got, what happened there was we used double bass to just lead us into the chorus. And then we hear the chorus for the first time with strings. So that's our second chorus. So it's a good way to build. I talk about this a lot on my channel where when you're arranging songs, it's really good to have each time you repeat your chorus, you want to add another element in each time. And the listener probably won't even notice, but it actually keeps the song building in energy throughout. And that's what you want to do as a producer. So this is a good way to do that by adding strings. So the first chorus had no strings and the second chorus, we've got double bass and cello. So you can hear those parts. So I'll just solo the strings for a second. Unsolo, and you'll hear the violins come in now. On the day I buy a ticket to the moon, I'm out here. All right, so we've got a bunch of strings happening in the outro as well. So basically you can see arrangement-wise, we've added some strings in that instrumental break, just to add a bit of interest there. We've taken them out in the second verse, and then you hear them come in to, or they lead in at the end of the second verse into the second chorus where you'll hear double bass and cello. And the last part of that chorus leading into the outro, we hear the violins come in. You don't have to follow this exact formula at all. It's just what works for this song, but you'll probably use something similar. Basically what we're wanting to do is build our arrangement throughout. So you can see, so I just close these. You can see this string section is gradually getting more and more instruments, more and more parts. It's building in energy as the song progresses. Make sense? Cool. All right, so the next part of the video, I want to talk to you about the different parts. So what the strings are actually playing in relation to what the guitar is doing. So we started with our double bass part. That's the first one we hear, double bass. I'm just going to solo that so you can hear what's going on here. So you can see the notes down the bottom here. But basically, all that's happening here is really nothing fancy. The bass is just following the guitar. So the chords that I'm playing in this song are F, C, G, and then A. And you'll see we basically do a bit of a descent down to the A here. So if we listen to that, can I solo that with the guitar? Yes, I can. Right, so we can hear this chord just playing an F, C, G, and I'm playing an E instead of an A here. And then back to the root notes, F, C, B, A. So not exactly just the chord tones. I've taken a little bit of a creative license by adding some little descents, but generally the bass is just following the guitar bass notes. And if you just want to follow your guitar bass notes exactly, it's going to sound fine. So after that, we actually no, it's the same time. We've also got during that section, we've also got the cello. So this is the cello here, playing F, C, G, and E. Is that just playing exactly the same notes? F, C, G, E, F, C, G, E. Yep, it's playing exactly the same notes. Excellent. That's nice and easy. So let's compare. We'll just hear the double bass again. And let's hear the cello part. Right, so that cello is playing exactly the same part as the double bass, it's just an octave higher. So together they will sound like this. It's lovely. It just fills it out a bit more than just having the one note. All right, so what happens next? Once we hit our, we're leading into the chorus. So once we hit the chorus, the double bass is playing, same again, F, C, G, A. Yeah, okay. So now I'm literally just following the guitar playing the bass notes. So the chords I'm playing are F, C, G, and A minor. And that's exactly what this double bass is doing. Cool, so let's see what the cello is doing. Oh, we've got some different notes in here. Okay, so the cello is playing A, E, G, and E. Lovely. So all that's doing is playing the thirds. So if we think about triads, we've got the root note, the third, and the fifth that make up a chord. So I am playing those chord tones with my strings. And that's going to be a really safe way to write harmony. It's going to sound beautiful every time. So we can hear those together. All right, so the next instrument that comes in is the violin sections. So we've got, we start off with these three sections that come in here. That is at the end of the second chorus, leading into the outro. So these are playing, first they start off with a little descending run, which is a lovely way to introduce a violin section. And then they're just playing E, C, G. Okay, so the E is the seventh. So our first chord is F. So the E is the seventh, and then C, G, and A. So they're just playing the root notes of the chords, just like the double bass is, same as the double bass, but a bunch of octaves above that. So part-wise, we've got double bass playing the root notes of the chords, the cello is playing the thirds, and the violins are playing the root notes a couple of octaves above the double bass. With some exceptions, we've obviously got an E note here, which is the seventh note. You know, with writing music, it's a creative process, so go with your ears. A good place to start is by using the harmony within the triad. So you've got your root, your third, and your fifth. Those are always going to be safe options when you're writing harmonies, but you might be playing around on your keyboard and go, hey, I really like the sound of this seventh note here, which is what I've done, and used that instead. And I've also obviously added this little run in as well. So you'll hear this string section. I'll just solo that. You'll hear that come in, hear those violins come in. Lovely, sounds beautiful. Let's hear that with the rest of the song so you can hear it in context.
You better hope that I've got room for two.
Violins coming in.
On the day I buy a ticket to the moon.
All right, and the last part of this arrangement is the outro.
I'm out here.
The only thing that's different about this is we've added a fourth violin section. And the purpose of adding that fourth part there is just to add an extra layer of richness to this outro where I want things to start being quite orchestral. So we'll listen to this, listen to all the parts, nothing's soloed. And you can hear this outro. And obviously the strings become quite intense here. So have a listen.
Out here, I'm out here, I'm out here. Did you forget? I'm out here, I'm
Loads of strings in that outro. Yeah. Little bit of trivia for you. Spooky Saturn. Here we go. Let's listen to this. So this is actually sounds recorded from Saturn because I'm a space nerd and wanted to put that in my space song. But I just think it's cool as a producer that you can add in samples that really add to the I don't know, it's like a little Easter egg in there that those sounds are actually from space and the song is about space. Anyway, just nerding out for a minute there. Right, so that is our parts we've looked at. So we've covered instrumentation and arrangement, we've covered parts. Then the last thing I want to look at is effects, and the effects on this are pretty basic. I've just used Ableton's native instruments. So these are all come with Ableton. And on each of these, come back. So I talked about the group at the start. So we've kind of got our master effects on the all of the strings, which is here we go. Compressor. Actually, it's not it. Normally I would put a compressor on there, but I didn't for this for some reason. It obviously didn't need it. This is a side chaining. So what that means is it's dipping the volume of the strings every time the vocal comes in. So basically just creating some space for the vocals, because mixing is all about having enough space in the mix for you to hear the different frequencies coming through. Otherwise it just sounds muddy if everything's competing. Anyway, that's definitely a different video. So sidechain on there and just some reverb as well, because reverb, if you're worried about your strings sounding cheesy, just throw a bunch of reverb on there and it covers up everything. Let's just have a listen to this soloed again. If I take off the master reverb. Put it back on. Off. On. Right, so obviously there's a bit of a volume difference there, you can tell, but the reverb is just basically smoothing out all the edges and keeping it all glued together so it all sounds like one thing. Okay, so that's basically it for our strings. That's basically all that's going on in this song. We've had a look at the different instruments, how the string sections are arranged, and the parts that they're playing, as well as the effects, which honestly there isn't many. I find with strings that subtlety is often key. So you want to keep them fairly low in the mix. You don't want them to be right up front as is in the loudest instrument. They're there to just support everything else. So you want to have obviously your vocal in front, and these are sitting behind the vocal and the guitar and everything else in the song, just to add that warmth and extra emotion. Now, I wanted to just demonstrate some of the techniques that I just talked about in a new session file so you can actually see how this would be built from scratch. So I've just recorded the world's simplest piano part just to keep things super simple. As you can hear. All right, super simple. We're just gonna loop that and the chords just so this is nice and easy. We've got C major. This is an A minor, G major, and an F. So this is probably the most common chord progression you'll ever hear. So it's a good one to use as an example. All right, so that's our chord progression. Say this is our song. We're wanting to add strings to it. So the first thing that I would do is I would head over to my sounds over here, and we want to go for, is it under orchestral? Yes, it is. All right, so the first thing we want is a double bass, and we've got a couple of different options here. So that's like staccato, solo. I want a double bass section, legato. Yeah, that's what I want. All right, so we'll drag and drop him in here for our first bass part. So our bass is going to be playing just the root notes. So that is, go down an octave, C, A, G, F. Let's just hear that. It's fine, but I kind of want to maybe switch up the octaves a little bit. So maybe yeah, okay, let's do that. So still playing root notes, I'm just playing the F and the, so the G and the F an octave higher. 2, 3, 4. Lovely. Cool. Our next part will be a cello, which is cello. No, I don't want solo. I want section. Yep. Drag and drop. Our cello section is going to be playing the thirds. So that's just going to be, for C, it's going to be an E. For A, that is going to be a C. G is going to be an E. No, sorry, B. And F is an A. So how does that sound? Pretty nice. That's just descending. But what if we switch the octaves like we've done with the bass part? So we'll go E, C, B, and A. Sorry, brain. I think that's going to sound better. So same notes, we're just again putting them an octave higher in those last two bars. That sounds lovely. Let's record that. Next, we're gonna throw some violins. You could add a viola if you wanted, but I just did violins last time, so let's stick with that. The violins are gonna be playing, what did we have? They were playing the octave above. So that's gonna be C, A, G, F. I'm just going to take the velocity down a little bit because I was a bit heavy-handed. Oops. With that G there. That sounds okay. But I reckon it'd be nicer to just be a bit more creative with it. So let's just put, oops, that was an accident. Let's just put this section over here for a minute, and I'm just gonna play while this loops and hopefully come up with something cool. Let's record that. Nice. I'm just gonna fix that velocity. Chill out. Now, I just used my ear to write that part. I think what's happening is we're getting a mixture of octave and thirds by the sounds of it. What have we got? Yeah. Especially that B is picking up that cello is playing the B note as well, which is the third of the G chord right there, and that sounds really beautiful. So you can really mix and match with violins, just try and do something creative there. Add a few passing tones, which is these guys, the little shorter ones in between, just to make it sound more melodic. And once you're happy, let's try that. Let's re-record it. We want to record this a couple of times just so it sounds like the section is bigger. So right now it sounds like there's not very many violins, but I usually like to make it sound like there's a whole huge violin section. You can't just double like copy and paste this because we want it to sound more human and organic. We want to be able to we want to play the part several times which will be slightly different each time, and that will make it sound more like humans playing a section. If we just copy it and paste this, it'll just basically just increase the volume because it's exactly the same. So I'll show you what that sounds like. Take it off. Right, so it sounds it's exactly the same, but just louder. So I'm going to play it. That B was obnoxiously loud. We'll just take that down a little bit. How good is MIDI? It means you can edit this stuff. Sounds lovely. Now, what I'm going to do is take all my strings and I'm going to hold down, is it shift? Yep, to highlight them all, right click and group tracks. So that creates a group. So now we've got a little master track here for all of these, and I'm going to throw on, you guessed it, some reverb. Here we are, reverb. Wait, this one. Reverb. And we'll put some compression on it as well, just so it's nice and even. Put that first. have it. There is a lovely little string part that sounds quite realistic, and I think adds a lot of extra emotion to this piano part, which would be otherwise quite boring on its own. You can imagine singing over that, put a vocal over it, it'll sound beautiful. It's really easy to do once you know a couple of the tricks. And there you have it. That is how to create some realistic sounding strings in Ableton Live. So hopefully after watching this video, you're feeling a lot more confident about how you can add string parts to your own songs, particularly if you're just starting out producing and you're a singer-songwriter. This is going to be a really great place to start for you in the recording world. That's it from me today. If you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel. That really helps me out. Give me a like and leave me a comment. I love hearing from you guys. Let me know what you thought, if you've got any further questions or ideas on future videos that you'd like me to make. I'm really looking for input from you guys because that's what I'm doing this for, right? So yeah, thank you so much for watching and I'll catch you next time.